and then you walk 2 feet backwards, and guess who's coming up 2 feet forward? The fucking lion coming up with he's coming up the stun, and he's walking like into your arena because you walk back 2 feet.
No,
like,
it also it helps your team play now that we're talking about it like this, because the enemy team's focused on you.
You're bringing them in. Crabby here. It's Crabby. I'm here with Pine.
What's up, guys? It's Pine. I play mid.
Yeah, check the fucking runes.
I play Ember Spirit every game. It's my best hero. It's banned.
Yeah, he's the best hero. He's actually he's strong this patch. Unlike every other patch, he's so strong right now.
No, Ember's been meta for such a long time.
Hey, it's me, Crabby. You're gonna see me on Prophet. You're gonna see me on Prophet in your game. I'm gonna be TPing on your wisdom.
That is true. But on a real note, welcome to the Dota Club podcast. We are back after a long break.
We're back and better than ever, I'd say.
Yeah, we are better than ever.
Dare I say. A crazy, I don't know if I'm going to get killed for this maybe, but if you're at ESL 1 Relay, we'll be there.
Oh yeah, that's a good shout.
That is a good shout.
Leave a comment if you're going to ESL Relay.
Live or some shit, I don't know.
Yeah, there's talk of that. Logistically, it sounds pretty hard.
We're figuring it out.
That'd be pretty cool.
But we will be there, which is cool. I'm very excited for that.
So if you're on the fence of going, maybe now this is your push. Because I mean, if you're a podcast viewer and you go, like, we'll meet you. You know,
for sure.
Leave a comment. Yeah, add us on Steam. We'll go there. I think it'd be cool to talk to viewers. Maybe we can even host like a Dota Club podcast, like get together.
That would be like insanity.
If we have enough people,
that'd
be awesome.
Yeah, that would be insane.
No, because I feel like the people who listen to this podcast are the people who are more likely to go to like Dota events. Because I feel like we have a lot of pretty.
I feel like people who watch this touch grass as well, more than your average Dota player.
I would hope so.
I mean, from the interactions we've had with people who watch, it's like, damn, I was listening to that shit on my morning run every morning. It's like, that's fucking based.
That was like one guy.
That guy's based as fuck.
Is that Fat Sloth?
I think so. I don't remember. Something like that. I think most of the people we interact with are usually pretty. I haven't had a freak tell me, "Oh, I also love your podcast," after he like breaks his items. Right? Like, usually it's like that rank 200 guy who's like, "Oh hell yeah, like I like the podcast," or like we had a wholesome interaction in one of the pubs. Like they usually seem more human than the average guy, I think.
Yeah, no, that was cool. In my pub, I had a rank 200 say that he was a big fan of the podcast.
Yeah, that's pretty validating, I think.
Shout out to, I think his username was like something unhinged, so I don't know what to actually call him.
So let's see if this hits well with the Dota audience, because I saw a tweet about League of Legends. My brother's really into League, and he's like stuck in bronze, so I gotta like shoot him some information.
We gotta get him on Dota is what actually.
He has played Dota as well. He's a big Grimstroke fan, so he's been down bad for probably most of the game's existence. But anyways, so I sent him this tweet from this guy named Drutut, who's a EU like streamer in League. Okay. And basically the tweet was he recently hit all 5 roles. He got Challenger, which is like, I mean, it's better than Immortal as well. That's like
top 500 in your region is Challenger.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's what it literally is.
I think that's what it literally is. And top 500 in League, obviously there's a much larger player base. So it's pretty fucking good. Anyway, so he hit it in all roles. But the part that relates to Dota is that he dropped the Bible on Twitter where he said he named 2 fundamental things at every role in order to climb. And it relates a shit ton to Dota. And because one of the points was about champ pool. This was for top lane in League. So, but relating it to Dota, he said that like, especially in those matchups, like I think this relates a lot to mid, because mid, the 1v1 matchup is pretty important. Where a lot of people, or actually just what he says about it is so good, because he basically just points out that like so many people think they see an angle for the perfect hero that they don't play, and then you pick that shit and you're fucking trash, man. But it doesn't mean you can't have a good champ pool. Or a fucking hero pool in this case, right? Like in Dota, what he said is like you need to have like 1 or 2, basically just 1, maybe 2 characters that you could pick every single game, and then maybe a couple counter picks, 1 counter pick, 2 counter picks. That makes you a versatile player, because then you can still find the angle for your counter pick and cheese out some games. But like the angle for the counter pick isn't first timing your fucking Huskar like an animal.
That's never gonna work for sure. Every hero in Dota, I found this with a recent coaching student of mine. Like people are very, very resistant to the idea when I tell them that to climb, just like pick 3 heroes and spam them. I don't know what it is. I think it might be an ego thing.
It's a combination of
people think that they can just play any hero. They think they're talented or whatever.
I think it's both. Like it's an ego thing. It's an issue from both sides where it's an ego thing where they overestimate their ability to play every champ or every I got the fucking tweet
No,
right
we're gonna
here,
have to
man.
stack
I
reports on
know we
time for
gotta.
that.
Can we like voice over? No, no,
9x,
no,
everyone
voice
report.
over, and every time
No,
I
I'm
say
not
it, just
gonna
like,
do that.
and then it just cuts in with like hero instead.
Yeah.
But I have the tweet open. Sorry, guys. I'm seeing the word right
hmm
there. But
Also, this is a quick side note.
yeah.
I think that the podcast is better if we're talking to each other and not like talking at an audience.
Sure. I agree
You
with
know what I
that.
mean? Yeah.
Okay, because well, I wanted to show you. I wanted to talk to you about this tweet as well, which is I
Yeah.
think is true. But what were we just talking about? Sorry.
Low
The
hero pool
Yeah,
because
the
of the
hero
League of
pool. Oh
Legends
yeah, yeah.
tweet that you were
The
explaining.
issue I think that people have is like they overestimate their ability to play every hero, and which I think that's just an ego thing that like a lot of people have. But I think the bigger one is that these players also are like fucking noobs, so they underestimate how difficult heroes are or how unique they are. For example, let's pick like Nature's Prophet, right? Nature's Prophet playstyle. If you're a carry player, like, oh, Prophet's in, let me pick some Prophet, and you're a Ursa player, that is just not the same shit at all in the slightest. Just not the same.
Bro is just
Not the
calling
same.
me out right now.
Yeah, but you like respect
But
the
yeah,
fact
I'm
that they're
diving
like
into Prophet. I mean,
exactly,
Prophet's a unique
exactly.
case because I would say he's like a
very unique.
very, very specialist hero.
Or for
Somebody in
another
one of my
one,
games said something good where I don't know, we were like making calls and something went
yeah,
wrong, and he like called GG, and I like made fun of him for
Jesus,
that because I was having a
yeah,
really
yeah,
good game, and then he
yeah.
said, yeah, like just go do Prophet things, and I thought that was
True.
pretty. It was actually like pretty insightful because
That's
Prophet
very
does
insightful.
very different things than other heroes, and if the
If you're
Prophet
fucking
honestly.
tiny, it's like go do tiny things. Shadow blading in that shit. One shot in a soup. I'm getting out. Prophet shit is like you're cutting the waves, you're stealing the whizzies, you're like
Yeah, no,
farming
the reason
camps.
why I like the comment is because there are so many Prophet things you can
Yeah,
do.
there's so many Prophet
And
specific
I guess to
things.
talk about Prophet for a bit, one of his major advantages that I'm finding is that it's very, very hard for the enemies to find you on the map. You can take whatever space you want on the
Sure.
map whenever you want. So you should always be able to find farm.
Yeah.
It's very,
Yeah.
very hard to not find farm. If you're not
Yeah.
farmed on that hero, you did something very wrong.
Yeah.
But even like to go back to what we were talking about on limiting your hero pool, like I'm a pretty high MMR player, right? High-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And when I pick up a new hero, I don't just like raw dog it in a game. I watch replays. You know, I see if there are any resources available for like guides on the hero by BSJ or something like that. And I give it the respect it deserves. Like
Yes.
I study it. And that helps a lot to learn it. You can't just because every hero has a unique way that they want to play Dota. And it's not just like timings, because it's one thing to just
It's everything.
yeah,
It's
look
a
at a
combination
hero
of
and then I
everything.
mean it is timings as well. But
Yeah,
it's
but that's like
also
an
about
oversimplification
their
of it.
identity, like what
Yes.
they want to do in the game. I mean, we've talked about hero identity on the pod. Maybe I should stop saying we've talked about this on the podcast before.
Yeah,
and we should
because
just talk
because
about it,
we
but
have talked about this, but like there's another example that I've literally said that I want to rehash, which it relates to Profit. But okay, really quick, because you say like, oh, not just timings, like a lot of it's timings. But for example, if we're talking about Profit, Profit's teleport contributes very minimally to what you would say his timings are, but it's a major part of his identity, right? Or how he
yeah, I
achieves
would
those
say that's a
timings.
very obvious example with like
Yes,
Prophet's teleport.
exactly. Or
That's obvious.
the other example, okay, here's the example I've said before, which is, and this relates to like not raw dogging heroes and actually giving the respect it deserves. And the more general point, I'll make the more general point before I go in. I think that's better. Is so much of Dota like work in terms of becoming better can be done before you get in the video game.
Yeah,
So many
that's what
people think,
everyone doesn't
yes,
realize.
that's actually so much alpha is that so many people think you have to do all the improvement live in your ranker, man. You're not improving in your fucking ranker. You're showing what your current skill, right?
I
So if you
think
want to fucking yeah,
before you go in, a lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
that comes down to the fact that in Dota, like mechanical execution, I would say is not nearly as important as like your high level ideas of what what you want your hero to do in the game.
mm-hmm.
I think that's what matters. And a lot of people think it's just about like mechanical execution and like outplaying, but it's about the big
Dude,
decisions, like
Dota's. I hate to
where
say it,
you put
Dota's
your
not like
hero
that
on
at
the
all.
map, where you put your hero on the map, what fights you select.
Yeah, exactly.
I just wanted to get that out there before you went in, because if you say you're going in, I know you're going to talk for like 5 minutes straight.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, relating it to, I mean, this is even the point I was gonna make. I'll give the example first. I won't get sidetracked. But we had a buddy who was playing. He just raw dog Inspector for the first time, and this guy is walking to fights, TPing in dude, you're Spectre, man. Just hit something across the whole map and just ult in when we have a numbers advantage, right?
Okay,
But, like,
I think that example is particularly bad because I think
yeah, no,
if
no, no,
most
no, no, but
players
stop,
like
but
Raw
stop.
Dog
No, 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 but
Spectre, they
stop, but
would
stop.
know not to do
But
that.
exactly. But then everyone in the comments, all the brain dead copers are gonna be like, that guy is such a bot. He's such a bot. Okay, he's not a Spectre player. First off, okay.
He's not even a
And,
carry player.
yeah, he's a lone druid player, middle, which is like a very niche hero, right? Like it's a super super niche playstyle. So like the fact that like the fundamentals don't translate, it makes a lot of sense. And like, yeah, that guy might be higher MMR than you, right there in the comments right
That's
now.
true. He probably is
He
actually.
probably is,
Now
man.
that
He's
I'm
like
thinking
ancient,
about it,
man.
no,
He's
he
like ancient,
probably
okay?
is.
And
He
he's TPing,
probably
he's using
is.
his TP scroll on Spectre to get to the fight, and he's ancient, right? Okay, so like maybe if you ult instead as Spectre, you're immortal. Like you did it. Or another hero that is more nuanced about like where you place your hero is Ember. So like sometimes you got to go do Ember things. Ember thing in question, I just like walk into their triangle or some shit with a remnant down, and I just like pop my flame guard. I start taking their camps and slighting their shit.
Yeah,
Right?
I really like that example
Yeah.
because you're definitely not gonna do that on like Void Spirit, even
Or
like
like
Storm
Tinker.
Spirit. You just don't do that.
Well, Tinker's like a disturbing example, but like
Yeah,
yes,
but
exactly.
I said
Yeah.
Void and Storm because people think they're very similar heroes, but like
Yeah.
you could very well just die on
Yes.
those heroes if you do that.
What?
Like
Okay, so
it's much
yeah.
easier to kill those heroes than
Yes,
it is
Ember's the
Ember
hardest one
Spirit.
to kill out of all the spirits. But okay, so
And
like
good Ember
so
players abuse that.
yes, and so like okay, so like what's the difference between them and Void Spirit and Storm Spirit? Okay, but Void Spirit and Storm Spirit have more devastating jump and ganks, right? So that's what you do.
Yeah,
Sure,
much
you
more
might
single
farm,
target damage.
but the point of me farming on Ember and their camps is to deny them farm and to be annoying. But if I go farm somewhere, I might still farm aggressively on Void Spirit or Storm Spirit, but it's because I'm farming right next to someone who I want to kill and I'm waiting for an opportunity. Which you can still do on Ember. But like the point is like exactly the point with Ember is like I'm just gonna like take their camp, and when they bring like 3 heroes and like stop the Ember, he's taking our ancients. It's like I'm just gonna remnant away. But on Storm, I'm gonna like farm up to the safe lane, like gank the guy or some shit like that.
Yep. I also wanted to make a point.
Yeah.
This is something that I've encountered in a lot of my games recently, just about
Yeah.
global heroes, is just a PSA. Because I found nobody in my games knows this. And do you have any idea what I'm going to say? You're probably going to guess it. Just
No,
about
just go
like
ahead.
global heroes in general. Okay.
Fucking use that shit.
It's
You need numbers advantage
bro.
in every fight.
No. I was going to say close, but that wasn't close. It's about when you're playing against a global hero. Because somebody in my game was, yeah, no, you know what it is.
I have a lot to
But
say.
somebody on my team was talking back to me about how he was Storm, and he was saying he couldn't gank anything because there was a Spectre with Orchid, okay, on the map. So,
Jesus Christ, you
what
bot?
do you need to
Anyway.
do? Gank the Spectre, bro.
Yes, dude.
It's just so
Dawnbreaker
obvious.
is such a good
Yeah,
example.
Dawn
Dawnbreaker
is another huge one.
Yo,
I mean,
guys,
just any global hero,
dive.
even Nature's Prophet.
Yeah. Every fucking rampage, man. Gank the
Yeah.
Dawn.
So the PSA is if there's a global hero on the enemy team, 9 times out of 10, your best play is to jump them. And even if
Yes.
they don't present themselves to you, they're not going to. You need to
That's the
be
point.
proactive and smoke
Yeah.
to where
This is
they're
what I was
farming
gonna talk about. This is
on
what
the
I'm gonna talk
map.
about.
And that's how you beat them. Because, yeah, if you let the Dawnbreaker get the perfect Ag's ultimate, 90% evasion, like Giga 500 heal, you're going to lose the fight. But that's not an excuse to not play the game and just start jungling.
The other thing that I really like is being proactive, because another big mistake that people make, not just versus global heroes, but I had a game recently. Sorry to the viewers who are in this game if they're watching, as in my boys, but we were against an anti-mage, and this anti-mage he was not farmed and he honestly wasn't a threat, so I like was overestimating this anti-mage's ability to carry the game.
Anti-mage these days is not what he used to be,
He just
unfortunately,
sucks.
for all the
But this guy's
anti-mage
cutting
players out
every
there.
single wave, and I'm like, we need to gank this guy. And then the gank in question is like the guy shows on the wave, and then like 3 of my guys like run there. And it's like, you're never gonna catch him like that. If the Prophet's cutting your wave, you're never gonna catch him by like seeing the Prophet and then running there. Dude, he can just TP home, TP somewhere else, etc. You need to look at the map and just imagine your anti-mage, okay? And it's like, what are you gonna do in the next 30 seconds? And then that's how you set up. You need to be there before. So same thing for the Storm Spirit. I thought you were going to be like, he can't find the Spectre or some shit because like the Spectre's like being sneaky. And it's like, it's just because you have to set up on the waves beforehand. People do not do that properly. And we've had a lot of plays where even simple things like that, where you set up proactively and like have an idea beforehand of what's going to happen. Another great example, I don't know if this relates too much, but this just goes to show like, I don't know. I think like communicating plans Okay, this isn't that related, but I think this is a great example because another thing I want to talk about is just like communication. Because another big issue in this game that I was getting upset about is that I was getting upset at my team because nobody was communicating. And I think there's a big misconception of what communicating is in Dota. Similar to real life, there is verbal and non-verbal communication, and Dota has so many systems that you can vocalize things succinctly without having to like type an essay
Yeah.
or
So in
speak
Dota,
for
there's a
30
lot in
seconds.
between verbal and
Yes.
nonverbal communication.
Yes, exactly. There's chat wheels, there's pings, right? You can ping your items, your cooldowns. I would consider you walking up to me saying nothing and smoking me communication. Does that because that gets the point across that you think I should be in a gank right now.
You want to
right?
go. Yeah.
Yes, you want to go. And so I remember in the game, I was just frustrated because we're all sitting there. I have watched this anti-mage cut 10 waves, and I'm like Ember Spirit with chains, and this guy has like 20-minute Yasha or some shit, like just disgusting farm, like just bad. And nobody wants to gank this guy, and I'm communicating. I'm like, we need to gank this guy. It needs to be a proactive move, like put me in smoke, yada yada yada. And no one's saying anything. And then I just like paused the game and crashed out because I was like, I want someone to communicate. And then somebody said basically, like, I don't have time in the game to type a whole essay of what we should do. That's not what I mean. And this also relates to the Drew tweet I was talking about because this was his thing for 80 carries. So sorry to league post more for the non-league enjoyers in here.
I feel like Dota
but
players hate that.
I know, but the point of 80 carries, or the point about this, is that they just cry about their supports. So you can relate this to carries, I guess, right? And it's basically like stop crying about what your teammates aren't doing and actually communicate, and it makes it so much easier to synergize with them. Now they're not always going to listen, and that's life. And then people take this the wrong way where they're like, communicate, support, you fucking idiot, pull, bro, pull. That's not what you're supposed to say. What you're supposed to say is, yo, I'm one creep from level 2. We can look here. Or if I'm mid lane and I saw a Quakefa one where he didn't communicate well, and it kind of annoyed me because, or he did, but he didn't like emphasize it enough because he was like, yo, Marcy, we can kill mid right now. But what he didn't tell this Marcy is that he was one creep from level 6 on Ember. Or sorry, he was one creep from level 6 on Void Spirit, and the enemy Storm was losing lane, and he was like only halfway into his level 5. Okay.
Yeah,
and this is
I
like
mean, in an ideal world, he'll just take Koifa's word that we can kill him right now, and he doesn't need to like explain why. Because I also think over-explaining is bad.
Yeah. But my point is, you don't essay it. You just say like, we can kill mid with my 6 right now. The Marcy was like in base, but like a lot of mid laners say like, dude, we could just kill mid. But like, I feel like the other explanation isn't that verbose. You actually just like, I don't know. You just like don't underestimate your teammate's ability to comprehend things. I feel like if my mid laner told me he's about to hit 6, I would be more likely to show up, right?
Yeah, after thinking about it, a little justification goes a long way.
Yeah,
but don't
need
overdo
to essay.
it.
Yes,
but like I think if you don't justify things, it makes you appear more tilted.
Yes,
if you just say like kill now versus like I don't know, kill on like when we hit level 2 on one creep from level 2.
It's not even necessarily like it's because it can get dangerous to view as you need to like justify what you believe, but instead it's just like communicate succinctly what you're actually thinking. Because a lot of people like think something and then they don't say that shit, right? Like they think something, or like if I'm like Ember Spirit mid and there's a Pudge and I want to slight chains hook, the wrong thing to say is, Pudge, where are you, bro?
Yeah, and that's usually what you say.
Yeah, and the Pudge doesn't show up. But if I'm like, yo, we can slight chains hook, let me tell you, the next gank is fucking slight chains hook, and the guy's completely
if he doesn't do it, I think it's just on you to realize that you did everything you can do at that point.
Yes, exactly.
And if you start whining, things will only get worse from there.
And but my original point that I think is really important is that people people underestimate the power of the non-verbal communication you can accomplish in Dota.
Yeah, I find that in some of my games, if I'm not careful, I let myself I communicate a lot, and I actually am against communicating a lot right now in my games because, and I think that a lot of this happens to you too. If you communicate a lot, your team will get lazy and they'll stop communicating, and they want you to shot call the whole game for them.
That's why I also think
really annoying, and it's just a lot of weight and it takes a lot of energy, and I think it makes me play worse when I'm like basically micromanaging people.
Yeah, but I think the micromanaging part is the part where it comes from like underestimating your teammates' abilities to comprehend things on their own and being too verbose, right? Because another way I could communicate the Pudge hook thing is I could say Pudge come mid, and then I ping chains. That also gets the point across very succinctly. And I'm not underestimating Pudge's ability to put the 2 and 2 together when I say, yo, come mid, and he's like looking at his Pudge like screen, and then I ping chains. Like he's gonna like connect the dots probably. And if not, it's
I would hope so. I don't know, dude. And you can also Pudge players these days.
But my point is like that's better than just being like, yo, kill this fucking guy. Like that's just like such a nothing statement, right?
Yeah.
And it's also a matter of like you don't need to by communicate. You don't need to like write an essay. Like you can communicate something as succinctly as that. Or ping your item as a carry. You ping your BKB. That's basically the most communication you need as a carry. Like it's time to go.
Yeah. I also think in general, and you kind of fall into this a lot, where over communication will people will listen to you less if you over communicate.
Yes, I agree with that. People don't like to control what to do in general.
Well, yeah. Also, psychologically, the more you talk, the less people listen to you, and the less you talk.
And
like,
each word has less value.
Yeah, exactly. Each word has less weight.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You know what you communicate really matters. I had
wait, sorry, just really quick. Like just an example about the weight is like when your carry is just like because a lot of the times I feel like we have games where people are like fucking crashing out at you and you're saying nothing and they're like my carry AFK and then finally it's like 22 minutes or some shit and you ping your BKB and you're like Roche and then it's like like everyone's in the Roche pit but if I'm like guys Roche already after talking the whole game everyone's like dude shut up man. Yeah, go ahead.
No, this is kind of a side note off that, but I have a problem with like people not listening to my Roche calls recently. Actually, it's super annoying. God. I'm just like in the pit alone. I just was okay. This is another PSA. This is full of PSAs for me. Is if your carry calls to Roche, you need to help them in the pit, guys. Especially if it's not like an Ursa or somebody who shreds Roche. Like every individual hero, with a few exceptions, in the pit increases the speed of the Roche.
Okay, chill.
And obviously,
don't put all 5 heroes in the pit.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna give that caveat. And it also depends. Like if there's an axe and a shaker, like you don't want to stack the heroes in the pit. But if you're like a mid hero,
you should be
like,
there.
If this is a good example in our games. If you're like Ember Spirit, people don't think about Ember Spirit as like having a lot of damage, but I would say it increases the Roche speed by like 20 seconds if you have an Ember hitting it the whole time.
I would say it like nearly doubles the Roche
speed or something.
It like genuinely nearly doubles.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I'm hitting that shit with the Flame Guard, fucking like Mage Slayer, and I'm beating the shit out of it. That's like damage.
Yeah, if you're a support, stunning the Roche also helps, but it doesn't need to be as black and white as like if you're Crystal Maiden, your auto attacks don't matter, right? Let's think about it. What's good is you can
frostbite that shit. Yeah.
So you can frostbite it from outside the pit. You don't need to be in the pit hitting and frostbiting, right? Because you don't want to be in the pit if you're a support.
You can also frostbite it and then go ward or something. Like if you wanted to go do that, you could just frostbite it and then go do something. Dude, I feel like I don't know how to exactly explain this point, but what happens is that everyone says they're down for the Roche, but they don't actually take personal responsibility. They just like offload that responsibility to their team mentally. And I mean, that's like obvious, but my issue is like, I think people do that a lot with calls where they agree with a call, but they don't actually want to put in the steps to like bring that plan to fruition. They're just like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Like Roche is pretty good. And then they don't like contribute. Like, dude, what the fuck, man? Like I'm talking like you need to help, man. All of us.
Yep. This is a really good chance to talk about like how when it comes to objectives in Dota, every hero has a different role.
Yes.
To contribute to the Roche, you don't need to be hitting it. Like if you're a support, most likely your contribution to the Roche is going to be warding around it, dewarding, and then positioning yourself well so you can cast your spells if the enemies go on us.
And there's
another good example that we talked about is like if you're Ember Spirit and we want a Roche, maybe your role is not hitting it. Like you can help hit it if it provides. Yeah, maybe you're just pushing a wave on the other side of the map and forcing somebody to
maybe
respond.
I'm slight changing the shaker who's trying to slam the pit as well, right? Like maybe I'm finding that motherfucker.
It just depends on the game, but every hero has to contribute to objectives. And
that reminds me of a Roche I saw today. There was a really good Roche I saw today.
Were you watching
Yeah, I was watching PGL. And there was a really bad fight by I forgot which team. Oh, Extreme. I think Extreme has Xingqiu, yeah. And then so Xingqiu was like the last one left alive on his team, and he's looking for a Roche steal, and it was looking pretty sus. Like basically, the Roche was getting to like 1/4 HP, and he's like fake channeling blast off like 3 times. Like oh shit, like here it comes. And he didn't have vision in the pit, and they didn't know he was there either. But 2 people are in the pit, and all 3 people, they're not shoving waves or anything. The waves were already shoved. They're all looking for this fucking guy. And then they found him and killed him right as he was about to blast off and steal the Aegis. And it's like, yeah, good job, guys. Because like in my pub, the Techies is gonna take the Aegis probably or some shit. Like it's just gonna.
Yeah, I mean, if it's in queue, he is.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna be a fucking travesty, man.
That relates back to an idea we talked about earlier, which is just like thinking in the position of your enemy.
Yes.
Like if you're a Techies with not that much net worth, and your team is dead, you're probably going to try to steal the Roche.
Yeah, go steal the fuck. I do that all the time when I'm like Earth Spirit or some shit. It's like, why not, dude? Like, I ain't doing shit.
And I think something that helps with that honestly is like playing more roles and heroes, because one of my greatest strengths yeah, I know we just talked about like
Yeah,
not
don't
doing
doing
that.
that. But if you're
But
trying to climb, then don't do that in your
well,
rankers.
it's about doing it tastefully. Like if you want to play
Yes.
roles and heroes, you can't just like play one
Raw dog
hero.
the role in hero.
Yeah, you can't play a different hero every game for 200
Yeah.
games.
You need to
You
put the
need to like
respect on
take the
those roles
time
and
and put the
heroes as well.
respect. Yeah,
Yes,
everything that we talked about before still applies.
yes.
But something I'm really good at is like predicting where the enemy carry is. Why?
Yeah.
Because I play carry and I think like, what would I do? You know? And I usually like I be hitting these nasty scans.
You
Low-key
are
in
really
games.
good at
Dude, I hit
it's yeah.
nasty ass scans.
Well,
Holy shit. Not
it's
to
actually
glaze
interesting
myself.
because now that I think about it, like I think I do a good job of like tracking and finding enemy heroes and like predicting where they're going to be, but I think it's usually not the carry. Like some of my best calls are just like this guy's going to like come out the side gate of the base for the Wizzy or like to ward. It's like I'm catching like a support or like a mid
Yeah.
laner because those are the roles I play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's super interesting. I agree with that.
Yeah. That also, when I learned to play a hero, like before this patch, I barely played any Nature's Prophet. He's so fun, by the way. I probably shouldn't be telling people to play Nature's Prophet.
Don't play
'cause
Nature's,
I
guys.
feel like he griefs a lot of games too.
Yeah.
Picking Nature's Prophet is kind of like picking Anti-Mage.
Yeah,
You're
play
playing like
PA
you're
if you're
playing like a solo
Archon.
game. Dude, an interesting thing about PA before I make my point
Yeah.
is she's picked a lot in PGL, but
Yeah.
on pro like first picked.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
on Pro Tracker, she has a 47 or 48% win rate, which is really bad.
I'll tell you
So
why right now.
what
I
that
think.
means, well, it's that PA is better in officials. That's what
But
it
why?
means.
But why is she better in officials?
Because
what is
she-
PA good at right now?
she
Why are
needs
they picking PA?
she needs heroes to stun people for her. Is what
I
I'm
don't-
getting from this.
Okay,
Is
I don't agree with that.
she kind of needs her team to like play around her in a fight. Why do you think
I
that
think
the win
I
rates are
think
so different?
why is because the reason why PA is good is that she skirmishes in the early game and she wins her lane, and
Yeah,
it's
her
just
lane's
not a
really strong.
it's just not a reliable plan in your pubs, not just to win your lane, but the other thing that's really good about PA, like when you watch these games and like I remember BSJ was talking about in this video, like, okay, so what supports are good right now? Aggressive things with slows, not necessarily just stuns, but like CM, right? Or
Jakiro.
Jakiro, exactly. Like you want stuff that is really, really strong in these skirmishes that's gonna like make it difficult for heroes to disengage and allows PA to like pick off people and like show up to these skirmishes. I think that's PA's strength, right? Her lane and her early game, which is surprising. But like she contributes really well if her team is like doing things. But if her team is doing nothing and your lane's like mid, it's just over. It's over. So I think that's like the issue with PA is exactly. Like she's just good at these skirmishes and just like in your average pubs, like that shit just does not happen.
I think also I didn't say this before, but she doesn't do as much damage as she used to.
Yes.
For like
she actually is good because she slows people.
And she's tanky, right? She does this like S and Y satanic, and she like.
Oh, you're talking about late game. I'm saying early game. Like the reason why she's good is she slows people and she can engage from far away.
Yeah, and late game and team fights. I'm just adding another reason why I think she's better in officials right now. It's because she builds like she front lines for her team. She doesn't like. I mean, she does do a lot of damage, but she's not like one-shotting heroes like she used to.
They're heroes that do more damage.
She kind of just goes in, and you kind of need your team to like bail you out from something like that a lot of the time.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So yeah,
I mean, like what items are good, right? Like glimmers and stuff. Like you need these buttons on you, or like exactly. Like your PA jumping in and then the Tinker presses the shield, glimmer, holy locket mech on you. Like that's what you want. With the S and Y and shit. Like,
she gives like vision for her team too. She does.
In. The daggers are long range, slow. They provide vision after it hits. Like it's a lot of utility.
Yeah, she's a different hero than she used to be, for sure.
I agree with that.
I was gonna make a point about something, and then I started talking about fucking Nature's Prophet doing profit things.
Oh
no, what were we talking about before that?
We
were talking about every hero having a different role for objectives.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think that point's been nicely made. I actually want to go. Sorry, I'm going to go back to this tweet, but it's just like there's content on content.
No, it's a good tweet. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Tweet. So let's do. This is more for supports, but I think this relates to mid as well. This relates to pretty much everybody. Probably carry the least. But another huge thing about like ganker heroes or synergizing with your teammates in general is that you should determine your win con and play for it. And you may determine your win con in the loading screen, but you also need to be adaptable based on what's happening. Like maybe you think your win con is holy shit, we got this like PA Magnus, and then your PA or your Magnus has no hands, right? And that guy's not your win con. Or maybe your support Tinker. This happens a lot when I'm Tinker at support. But like, I think the Tinker becomes the win con.
I hate playing with that shit, dude.
And so basically what
That's
my point
also
is,
like picking anti-mage.
is like, you not only need to play to the heroes, but you need to play to the players in your game. Like,
Yeah.
so many people do this where what do? They run at the strongest enemy heroes and they try to help their weakest, most useless bastards. And you just like, it's literally the opposite of what you should do. You
Yeah,
need to,
another
if your guy's
timeless
10-0,
idea is
yes,
play where you're strong.
exactly.
Play with your
that's
strong
basically this
heroes,
idea.
not your weak heroes,
Exactly.
into the enemies.
Yes.
That's what, if I'm having a good lane, I want
Yeah.
the enemy heroes to come to me so I can just kill them all.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
Like
and so
what
many
I
people
want.
do that. Yo, we need help against this guy, and the guy has like 5 kills, and then he just like you run
Yeah.
into that's like the TA idea where you just defend your tower.
It's
Yeah,
counterintuitive because I get it, you want to shut down the fed guy, but what actually ends up happening in most cases is the fed guy just gets more fed.
I
And you're
also
better-
agree.
Yeah.
I agree that shutting down the Fed guy is good. What that is that's like identifying the enemy's win con and shutting it down. But what I think is the issue is that people don't leverage their win condition and their strongest things to make things like that happen. Instead, they're just panic. Like, this guy's so fed. Send our most useless fuck.
Send our level 4 CM and our level 5
and the guy just gets
Venge.
like 2-shot. It's like
Triple
disgusting.
kill.
Like,
Yeah.
oh damn, like if you identify like, wow, we need to shut down this guy, he's having a good game. Okay, let's think about what you need to shut him down. If it's Bristleback, let's wait for the break. Let's wait for the diffusal. Let's burn his mana.
Vessel.
Let's wait for the
Shout
Spirit
out
Vessel.
Bristle.
You don't
Bristle's
just run
not
there,
strong right now.
right? It's a great example just because like people like feed on Bristle a lot in general. So it's just a great example because it's so obvious. But it might even be like the win or the way to shut it down might just be putting your strongest guy in a smoke, right? Or your Void Spirit gets a double damage and you smoke his ass. Like that might be enough to like, you know, determine a win con for the situation.
A really easy one right now is just like bring numbers at the same time.
Yes.
To something, and then 99% of pubs that's gonna work for shutting down the win con.
Yeah, and the biggest thing for me about the win con is that I think the teammate one's more adaptable because people like freak out and think too much about like which enemies they have to shut down. I really think the human element of like understanding your teammates. So many people like try to make sure like their most useless player, they want to like make this guy stop feeding. Why does it matter, man? Like, he's your most useless player. Why are you putting any resources into this guy? Just put all your resources into the strongest guy. He's going to carry you.
Yeah.
It's also okay to be carried. That's a huge idea that I think people are not comfortable with. It's okay to be carried. Now I'm not saying,
back, bros.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't do anything, but I feel like a lot of people have a tough matchup or they lose their lane and they're not okay getting carried. Their ego is hurt. They're upset. Like, you're getting stomped in lane and then they ruin the whole game for everyone else because they're just not happy being carried. You're getting fucked. You're the offlaner. You're getting fucked. Hey, I hope. And you're like mid laner. You're off. And how many times is it where our offlaner, because obviously we play safe lane and mid lane, our offlaner will be 0 and 10 billion quadrillion. And then and I'm coming to your lane because I'm looking at my offlane. I'm like, this guy's level 4 at 25 minutes. Like, maybe I should go top instead. And then I go to your lane and the guy freaks out. Dude, just be carryable. Just get carried.
I think getting carried is a skill, honestly.
Yes, exactly.
It's not a very hard skill.
Yes.
But it's a skill.
No, it is. No, I think it is.
I don't think it is. It just comes down to like salvaging the bleeding.
Like, but salvaging the bleeding's hard when you're weak as fuck, right?
That's
like,
true.
I'm saying, like, let's say your support ruins your lane, right?
Isn't
Let's say your support. I mean, I think you definitely have situations where you struggle with too, and me, where I lose my lane or you lose your lane. It's not as bad as some of our teammates, no doubt. But like, let's say like maybe the support griefs your lane. It's not even your fault, right?
Yeah, which is always the case.
Yes, exactly. It's never our fault, anyways. Or like, I'm 1v3 on mid and I have no team. Classic situation.
What can you do?
But this actually relates to another thing about mid lane in the tweet, which is super insightful. But yeah, like, so many people just like they want to. This happens a lot for me on mid, where I'll be losing mid lane and all I want to do is kill the other guy. How about I just not die and I collect mid waves, or something like that? Or if you're losing your lane and your offlaner's owning, like, just let that guy let him get the resources and play for him. And what I was gonna say, relating specifically to mid lane, this is for all you mid laners out there, is that the strength and weakness of mid lane is that it's in the center of the map. So what do I mean by this? The strength is that you can do anything, you can go anywhere, you can synergize with anyone from the middle lane, right? But what does that mean on the other side? It means the most attention is going to be on you for the majority of the game from both teams, right? So if I'm 1v3 on the fucking 4-minute water rune, all I have to do is not walk into the river and get shit on, right? It might be a nightmare for me, like, holy shit, both supports are here and I have to walk base. Yeah, and then your both side lanes are 1v2. And you may be like, holy shit, but then my guys don't kill him. Yeah, but like, the point is that that's the proper play. And if you're being consistent over the course of hundreds, 200, 300 games, then the guy laning 1v2 is probably going to like get kind of fucked a lot of
That's
the
a
time.
good framework. You should just expect a lot of people to be mid because, like you
Yes.
said, it's the middle of the map, and there are going to be a lot of heroes, and sometimes the enemies are going to have more than you.
It's the center of attention, and sometimes
Yeah.
that's great for you. Sometimes you're the mid laner getting 50 bottle refills, rip, or like, you know, you have a million heroes on the runes with you and it feels great. And sometimes you're the guy just getting like astro fucked under your tower the whole game, and that's chill. Like all you gotta do is survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that I wanted to say before about you mentioned like being adaptable to your win condition, like if you're PA mag but your mag has no hands.
Yeah.
I really like to frame that as every Dota game is a different puzzle, and part of the
Yes.
puzzle is your
Is the
teammates.
humans. Yes.
If you
yes,
have
yes.
a feeding Magnus, you need to take that into your judgment and operate as if you have a feeding Magnus. And you can't, where I've gone wrong so many games is like projecting what I think the Magnus should be doing. And one,
Yes.
that's taking away from my gameplay. And two, it just creates so much frustration. I get so mad and like tilted if I have some sort of expectation.
Your Magnus
for
also
how-
plays worse if you like give him like verbal aids.
Yeah, but even if I'm not giving him verbal aids, this is like
Yeah.
kind of an
The guy
internal
the guy
thing.
sucks, right? Like the guy is
Yeah.
not gonna do anything. It's chill.
And that's really applicable to me in like for my fives, because I obviously know what a good five should do. I think I'm honestly a pretty good five as well, just because I know
Yes.
what the carry wants. But trying to change somebody else's gameplay, I guess this is kind of a separate idea, but trying to change my five's gameplay in
Mhm.
the lanes, I've just learned over time that it makes them play worse.
Yeah,
And you
I
can't
agree.
do that. So you just have to, this sounds like some stoic like essay or something, but you just have to like accept what's in front of you and operate within that
Mhm.
instead of like projecting expectations
Okay.
onto what things should be.
Final point about this tweet, but we basically already discussed this, but it's just a great point that you're going to enjoy, is that he's talking about how side laning is broken. So I relate to global heroes, and basically the main point is that the enemy team will, in solo queue, the enemy team will just force some dog shit ass call after you side lane for like 3 minutes. Like the other guy's just going to get bored and go fight, right?
Wait, what
Side
do you mean
laning,
side laning is broken? You're gonna have to elaborate on that.
I'm saying,
Like
if
in the game or like in the
I'm
lane?
saying every single game as a core, the best thing you can do in hard games and also easy games is just farm the side waves all the way out
Yeah,
and
that's a
not
good
just like
point. Wait,
stack middle.
yeah, before you finish, I want to make that point really clear. If you're
Yeah.
weak in general, go side lane and pick off heroes.
Yes.
It doesn't need to always be an ARAM 5v5 team fight
Yes.
in the mid game. So the idea, just to be very clear, is side laning is going to lead to less team fights than going mid in general. Why?
Yes.
Because the middle of the map is just much easier
Everyone's
to get to.
there.
Everyone's
there.
always
or
there.
they're TPing.
And in the side lane, if you think about it, it's just usually like one or two heroes
And
like pushing a wave.
we've I don't remember if we discussed it. I think this was off camera, but TPing to mid is more convenient than TPing to side lanes for people who want to show up to fights, right? Because
Yep.
let's say I'm a carry and I TP mid, I just walk like 10 15 seconds back to my lane. If I TP to my off lane, now it's like this age where it's like, well, you get out of here. Nah, you get out of here. I'll take the gate, I guess.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
It's
I'm
like,
gonna take 30
trash.
seconds and take the
It's
gate.
trash.
And you
right?
can
So
think,
yeah,
take that from the other side and just think like, if you're playing carry or any role, honestly, like be more inclined to TP mid if fights happen mid.
yeah.
Just for what we said, it's much
Exactly.
easier to like walk somewhere.
Just to have a
After you have options, you have so
yeah.
many options. You
Yeah.
could go triangle, you could go top, you could go bottom, you
Yeah.
can go enemy jungle, you can go Roche from mid.
But basically, like I think if you go farm side lanes for like 2 or like 5 minutes in a game at any point. I do this all the time where I'll like be fighting and tilted on Ember, and then I'll like turn on the anime music, mute my whole team, and then I will literally go farm a side lane for like 4 minutes or 5 minutes, and then I'm just like 2 levels up on the enemy mid laner. Because what's that guy doing? He's walking around in circles, like stroking his shit in his fucking triangle, doing nothing. He's just like jerking off with his supports.
And if you try to fight mid again, you're like giving this player who's a lot worse than you a game.
Well, exactly what he wants.
Just,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
Mid.
This guy's doing nothing farming, nothing sitting mid, waiting for some animal to show.
And that's all he knows how to do is the secret.
That's all he
and
knows
if you
how to
don't do that, then like
that's
just
all these people know how to
do,
man. It's so disgusting. I actually had a great I actually had a great thought about this, or it was illustrated great in PGL today, because I remember this DK on Falcons got his blink dagger. This is like, and he like rushed it. So this is like a 11-minute blink dagger, and the whole game his team wasn't grouped because they felt pretty weak. He gets his blink, and immediately I look at the map state. There's 4 of his guys mid. They smoke, and their carry is farming in the triangle, ready to connect. And then I look at the other team, fucking in both side jungles, support stacking triangle, and there's like some guy like deep as fuck farming the enemy jungle. It's like, that's not a coincidence that one team wants to fight and the whole team is mid, and the other team is afraid of this blink dagger timing, and they're literally as far as possible on the corners of the map.
Yeah, that's a really good example.
Like, I thought that was awesome because, like,
I mean,
I'm sure if you watch pro games, you're gonna. It would be really a good exercise to watch pro games and think who wants to fight, and then think about like where the heroes are placed.
Yeah.
That's
be, like, another really base thing, but
that.
I know none of you watching this are actually going to do this because people in Dota in general don't like to do anything except play the game.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you watch any replay, it can be your replay, it can be a pro replay, and only think about one concept in the game. It can be as micro as watching a lane and just thinking about when do they aggro the creeps.
Yes.
And you'll learn so much just by watching that one thing because you're not focused on anything else.
You will learn more in that replay than trying to learn a bunch of different things, even though you're artificially limiting yourself.
Yeah. I also think when it comes to this, like, I've been falling into this fallacy in my games a lot where like I'm familiar with this side lane, mid lane concept, right? Sure. And I've been getting tilted. I've actually been tilting a lot recently, but I get tilted.
This is what happens when you Q turbos with your e-girls and get tilted. All right?
Yo, watch it.
I just
watch it, bro.
You can cut that.
No, I'm gonna leave it in. That's kind of good.
You Q turbos with your friends.
No, dude, I've been playing with some casual players and getting tilted, and it's like not a good look when you like.
It's not a good look at all. Yeah, it's a terrible look actually.
It's actually really funny. I mean, they don't care; they think it's funny. But
some of them.
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I've been getting tilted because I try to communicate this like side lane, mid lane concept like in the game. Like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, it's so complicated.
Guys, it's easier to show up mid. We have to spread out.
Yeah, it's such a nuanced concept, and I feel like you have to. There's like a fundamental block of knowledge you need before you like really grasp that. And people are like trying to play, and it's just, even though I think what I've been doing is if I'm having a bad game, I'll mentally justify it to preserve my ego because I'll say like, oh, like my team is going mid instead of playing the side lanes. Whereas I can just be the one to play the side lanes.
Yeah, it's all good.
And again, if my team wants to help me, they can. And if they don't, you know, it's on them.
Another thing,
I just want to finish this thought with like, it sounds obvious, but it's so timeless, is just like focus on yourself having a robust, like stable game and just playing as well as you can and only focusing on what you can do in the game and just doing the best of it. And if I'm in that mindset, it's 20-0, you know, but as soon as I start thinking about like my team and I try to like, I get frustrated and then I play worse. I'd have these mediocre games that are like, you know, even a like 10-4 game. It just doesn't feel good, man. It's not enough to 1v9 if you're 10-4.
Yeah.
It legitimately needs to be like 15-2.
Game.
15-1. Right.
As we've said before, like sometimes you will win a game where you only made like 1 or 2 mistakes. I mean, like larger mistakes. Maybe you didn't aggro at the right times or some shit. It's all good. But sometimes that's what it takes is like one major mistake and you lost and you're 15-1. And sometimes you go, you know, 5-8 like a bot and then you get carried and it's chill, right?
Yeah.
So
certain heroes too, like Ursa for example is a hero where you can be 20-0 and lose, and just being
because he doesn't end the game. He doesn't end the game. If anyone was wondering why that's the case, because he doesn't
push towers at all. You just have to keep killing them on repeat.
Similar with Slark. Your
team's not having a Slark is better because
I think Slark is better because
after a team fight he has stacks and he can just siege with the stacks.
I was gonna say the other thing about Slark that makes it easier is that he has vision, so he can like close out the map and prevent the enemy team from like taking advantage of the fact that the game's not ending. When you're losing to Slark, usually it's not fun. You're not like, oh, we're gonna stall it out. Usually it's like we're all chain feeding everywhere. But the Slark can't push, so you're just like kind of trapped in like the 30-minute like endless cycle of feed.
To be fair, that happens when I play Ursa too, but I think it's harder against the Slark. Like in theory, if they were all pro players, they'd be able to deal with the Ursa.
Slark is more oppressive in that
than the Slark.
Yeah, the Ursa has more damage and burst. The Slark controls the map. It's more utility. Damn, I had something to say. Oh, it was about muting because I remember I was gonna say that I'm like anti-potato posting. Sorry, potato. Fuck, what was it? Oh, yes. People, this kind of like, you have to take the nuance in our points because now I'm going to slander communication after saying you need to communicate, but you need to understand the nuance. Okay. But I have found that a big thing especially in these solo queue games with these egoed up animals who on your team, is that they don't care. They don't want to hear about what they like, what you can do, what you should be doing if your hero is strong, etc. They want to see that shit. And unfortunately, the reality of that a lot of the time might be you're side laning alone for a while until you like kill someone on the side lane, and then they realize this guy was kind of cooking something. Or you side lane until you're strong enough where like you're a couple levels up and now your hero is looking pretty robust, and then people want to play with you. But if you just say things about what you want to do, like, I mean, I still think communication is important, but like a lot of people want to see that shit, right? And so the point of that is like, if your team's not going to come with you to side lane and you think you should play side lanes, then play the fucking side lanes yourself, man. And eventually, since you're in the right spot, you're going to reap benefits of that, and your teammates will see it. Okay. And then they're going to do it. They need to see the benefits because a lot of them just like don't believe you.
And even if it's not as powerful as if your team is there with you, like just make the right play anyways.
Yeah. Another point about communication I want to really fit in that a lot of people probably don't agree with is that communication is not a two-way street. Surprise. I think you can mute everyone and communicate well. And like,
definitely.
right? Yeah. And like your teammates can still communicate with you when you're like, if they can still like walk up and smoke me, right? Or some shit. Like that's still communication.
Think the best communication in Dota just relates to your hero and what it wants to do and what it wants to do or what you are doing. A really good comm that I started using, and I've actually found that it makes an impact and my team feeds less when I do this, is in a fight, I say into the mic, I'm kiting. And I just say it once. Like if I don't know, Ursa, for example. If I blink in, it's really good. If I blink in and I like use my shit and then some spells use on me and I'm half HP, what do I want to do? I want to back up and just wait for my next blink and then just go kill another hero.
Yeah. Dude.
And I've actually found that my team like responds to that because think about it from your perspective. If you're playing,
you're not telling them to kite either, right?
Yeah, exactly. I just
know that your carry's kiting, and it's like, well, that's my guy.
With that information, what you want, because if you knew that your carry was not kiting, you're like pressing on the gas, like you're just going in, like you're fully committing.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you know your carry's kiting, maybe you like chill a little bit. You know, maybe it encourages you to kite, which is something that people don't do enough in Dota. Is kite. People.
Yeah. Yes,
people will fully commit every team fight right away.
Real quick
that. Yeah, what is
it? Another hero that kiting people think of like Monkey King as like this like I was gonna say like Ursa, but Ursa also kites. So like basically you need a fucking kite, guys. There's nuance in fights. But so many people, dude, I have a lot of traumatic memories of people like getting pissed at me on Monkey King, where I'm like hitting a couple guys, hopping the trees, scouting some supports, getting a nice angle, and then your support runs in and just dies in half a second, and then they say some shit like, keep jumping in tree, monkey animal.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
Dude,
monkey AFK.
You, bro. Monkey AFK, keep jumping tree. Yeah, man, that's my fucking hero. Like, come on, dude. You got a kite.
Speaking of Monkey King, I want to give the BZM example. We talked about this off camera.
Dude, I love this example.
It's just a really good. It's not about the specific example. It's about like how somebody like BZM thinks about the game. But this was in a Tundra like vlog during a tournament. BZM's a player on Tundra, and they're talking about the game. And BZM made a misplay where he like overcommitted on Monkey King.
They're dire. It's in front of the Radiant top tier 2 tower. This is the old patch, like kind of by the Wizzy.
Yeah, but basically all you need to know is that he overcommitted. And then when he's talking to his team about it after, I think he felt pressure to go in or something. Like somebody told him
he was
to go
infested, I think, right? Or something.
Maybe.
I think he was infested, and then he like hopped down from the tree, and he went like melee range on an axe.
Yeah, his team was like, go, go, go.
Yeah, and he got called by this axe like into the tier 2 and died.
But then, and this was after the game, not during, he was telling his team what he wanted to do on Monkey, and he said something along the lines of like, I want to space them with my defusal. But what stuck with me was he did like this hand motion when he was talking about spacing. And I really like that because I thought that visual was like so visceral to me with what Monkey King wants to do.
Yes.
And him just doing that like increased my understanding of Monkey King, and it communicated the whole thing. Because what he wants to do is like press his ult and use diffusal and like kite in and out, back and forth. He was
like, I didn't want to go in. I want to just stun that guy and put him in the ring and press diffusal and this. That's what he said. He was like, I just want to press ring and stun him and.
Yeah, he couldn't even come up with the words for it. He just did this motion.
He's like, I just want to press diffusal and stun axe in the ring end.
Yeah,
like, and that's exactly what he wants to do.
It's
and
so
then
based.
We had a great game after we watched this where I was playing Monkey King. I forgot I was against a Shaker. And I did the same thing where like I like ring diffusal the guy and I hit him twice and then I stunned him and I got my stacks and then I walked out and just let him die to the thing, and then like as he's getting low I hit him again or some shit. Or it's the same thing, like it's just that visual, like I just want to do. And people just don't understand that nuance of kiting and stuff, like the positioning.
What's also good is when you kite like that on Monkey, like your team is gonna follow up with some spells. You don't need to commit and like hit him a few extra times because you're putting yourself in danger of literally dying.
I also think what makes kiting so important is that the opposite of kiting, which is just like walking at the guy and hitting him AFK, is very predictable in terms of your movement. And when you start killing somebody, like let's say I'm Monkey King and I like arena their fucking axe and I'm beating the shit out of him, everybody's looking at that shit and getting ready to cast their spells. So if you like stutter step backwards or kite out, it's like they're just mind melded. It's completely cooked. They're like, get the monkey. And then you walk 2 feet backwards, and guess who's coming up 2 feet forward? The fucking lion coming up he's coming up the stun, and he's walking like into your arena because you walk back 2 feet.
No, like, it helps your team play now that we're talking about it like this, because the enemy team's focused on you.
Them in.
And when you're like confusing them, your team can cast their spells much easier because
just to relate this to something that nobody's gonna get.
Perfect.
But in Warcraft 3, I've been watching a lot of Warcraft 3 with the Grubster. I know everyone in Dota loves the Grubster.
In general, I feel like stuff like this is good because again, the best content comes when we're just like having a conversation.
Yes, I agree.
I feel
like I like
examples
like this.
When we get in like audience mode and it feels like we're like presenting, like doing
I think actually
it gets a lot worse.
The way we explain Dota the best is when we're not talking about Dota directly. Because this example, but like this example illustrates the point way better than if I discuss the benefits of kiting, right? Like my point is that like relating it to something that's not directly Dota, because for a lot of people, Dota can be overwhelming information wise, right? So I feel like real life examples as well, like, and that's why Dota examples work. I think just like applying something that isn't the actual thing to the thing is just way better because it gives you a lot of like mental clarity on what the fuck you're talking about. Whereas like it's so easy to get lost in the sauce when you're like talking about like, and then you have to aggro.
You need to ring and defusal and go back and forth.
Exactly. But when you're just like, you just need to hit it's like, oh, all right, like that's pretty good.
To be clear, the motion was in and out. It wasn't just like in. It's
he just wanted to space the guy. He's not leaving. He's just spacing. It's a fucking axe, right? Like you're not gonna you're not going.
Well, I actually think part of it was like in and out and in and out. Yeah. Like you can go in. You don't have to like fully commit to the out.
He didn't hit the full push up. Okay.
No. It was like push a little bit, pull. No, it's a push and pull. It
wasn't even that. I think he just hit like a middle ground. Like he's
no. It was definitely a movement.
Okay.
I remember.
Yeah.
Oh, I just
but he wants to space him like pretty solidly. Okay, I was gonna relate to Warcraft 3 because this was some advice that Grubby was giving to like the students he was teaching. But he said when you start a fight, walk in with all your units and then immediately walk out. That's literally the advice he gave. He said the fight starts, everything's running forward to attack. First thing you do, walk out. The enemy will run at you and expose their units, and you just kill them. It's like, and it's just the same thing in Dota.
That's really based, it applies to
you
Dota.
Just walk in, and then people get ready to cast spells, and you walk out, and then like now you can select your fight because. This is a huge concept as well. This is some Dota like alpha. Actually, I don't know. People don't do this. But so often I'm like, we need to jump the supports. We need to kill this target. We need to kill this target. And when the enemy team has an IQ that of like over 5, the shaker doesn't just show, right? Or the guy doesn't just show that you need, the tinker doesn't just show. So how do you force him to show? You attack the other guy, right? Let's say I want to jump the lion or the Skywrath mage who's like blasting us or the silencer. Why don't I start on the guy presenting himself, but then I don't just like stand melee range and feed to all the spells?
Yeah.
Because there's a ton of nuance. Or like another great example is when I play Wisp. People don't do this. They attack you, and then when I reveal myself because I'm forced to, I like tether in and mech and stuff. When I play against good players and good stacks, they immediately look for me.
They change targets. Yeah.
And I don't even think like I'm talking about like we play against like pretty good stacks, and I don't think they're communicating hit this guy until Wisp shows. They just subconsciously like they know they need to jump me, and then they see me on their screen. But imagine guys that you instead think before the fight, I'm gonna hit the bristleback until Wisp shows, and then I'm gonna kill Wisp.
You'll do it faster.
Welcome to TI. Welcome to TI.
Yeah.
GG's.
Actually,
yes,
I mean, I actually think like. What we're discussing right now are things that like pro coaches will talk to their players about, right? Like,
I agree
it's some alpha for sure.
Dota is not. It's a great game. It's a never-ending puzzle. It's super complicated, etc. All of the above. But I also think it's easy to get lost in the sauce or underestimate like how much your simple knowledge and concepts can apply. Something that we were talking about recently, a hero that's super in is Tinker. And I'm not going to give the whole spiel on Tinker because I have a lot to say about Tinker and like how to beat him and how to play him, etc. But we were discussing like how to defeat Tinker, and basically it came down to like stunning his rearm and like, dude, I'm giving up the alpha actually. Fuck, I want to
I
play
mean, if
Tinker.
you want, it's fine. I'm gonna
But yeah,
wrap
yeah,
that episode up soon, so
yeah.
maybe we
But
can talk a minute. We'll leave that as a cliffhanger for next episode. If you want
no,
to,
I'll get it out really quick. I'll get it out really quick. But I bet you now, like
that would have been
people,
a hype ass cliffhanger.
yeah, you watch PGL. Tinker. So my opinion on Tinker is that the way to shut him down the most is cancel his rearm and to purge his shields, right? It depends on core or support. Support, it's like you can purge his shit, but like not to kill the Tinker. But if it's core, the way to kill Tinker is to purge his shields and to cancel his rearms. That ruins his fight. And that may sound simple, or maybe it doesn't, because like I've discussed this with a lot of people, and they're always like, "Holy shit, I never thought about Tinker that way."
I think it just takes playing Tinker to like put it together.
Yes, exactly, because you wouldn't like sure, it sounds obvious when I describe it, but I guarantee you, like pro teams, when they're discussing how to shut down Tinker, like this is like relevant information they're communicating.
I think before you continue, what it comes down to is just like low key. A lot of high MMR players, they know what Tinker does, but they don't know exactly what he does. They don't actually know like exactly
Tinker's changed
how
a lot
his
too,
spells
right?
work.
Like now he's like TPing around and shit. It's like really strange. Yes.
And people know, like in general, like you break his shield and he TPs.
Yes, but like okay, so what do I do about that? Yeah, like they know how the mechanics work, but they haven't like played the Tinker and felt what feels bad. And the original point I was gonna make is like I think it may sound simple or something, but like, dude, I would bet that this is like information that pro teams are discussing and stuff like that. Like it's like, so how did what did the Tinker example come from? Because there was another point that we made that like we were saying is like alpha that pros are probably talking about.
That was when you hit the bristle and to make you force the support to show by hitting the enemy carry.
That one is more, honestly, I mean,
that's wait. I wanna wrap up that point just real quick before we continue. I like box up this concept. I guess it's kind of different, but
you're gonna say like think one step
no, I was just gonna call it like committing and just being conscious when you're. It's different than the wisp bristle example. Yes. This is more about just kiting in general in a fight. Yeah. But just knowing when you're fully committed and you can't get out of a fight.
Yeah, people think attacking is committing. That's the issue.
Yeah, exactly. People don't think about like
they think attacking is equivalent to committing. It's actually just not the same at all. If I slight chain some motherfucker, I'm not committing.
Commits all the fucking time. Dude.
How many times?
What pisses me off is when I'm on a hero that likes to poke and prod. Like Ember's a really good example. Or like Slark.
I was just about to
like
talk
sometimes I will like leap in the high ground like with my Dark Pact on just to like bait spells, and then my team fully commits.
Yes, I was gonna say same shit on Ember.
Wait,
dude,
one sec. I can't hear you. I need to plug in my headphones.
God. I'll just talk anyways.
Yeah.
How often on Ember do I invade the triangle, slight chain some supports, literally just pull up and slight some guy for fun, and then, dude, I had this in a game where I pull up to the enemy triangle, okay, with my remnant down mid lane, and I like walk up and like the guy's farming the triangle, and I turn on my flame gun and I start like stealing the creeps in front of him, okay, and then like three mother like it's like the carry farming it, and then both supports come from like they double TP in and like they're both wrapping on me, and then I remnant away. And my support walked into the triangle and he's like hitting the carry. And then he goes, dude, really, dude? Really, dude? Really, dude? What are you talking, dude? I'm Ember, man.
That's awful.
I'm not lying.
No, I'm really, hurt inside just hearing that because that's the epitome of everything.
It's so fucking like
we're talking about.
You Reddit bastard. Like, what are you?
No, that's such
about?
a tough situation because it's hard to. I guess you could say. I guess this is a.
And I do say this a lot.
You can say like I'm just poking
guys. I can get out. I try to
Yeah.
communicate this constantly. But another egregious one is high ground, man, because like I will be up in their base. I will be behind the
then your
thing,
supports
like
walk up the hill and
then boom, here comes my Rubik, and my Rubik is past the tower, and I remnant away. Really, dude? Really, dude? Dude's like one shot in half a fucking millisecond, just fast as the speed of light.
Gets his 16th death of the game.
Yes, exactly. And then it's my bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanna wrap this episode up. So if you wanna say your Tinker bit, you can say it.
No, I'm done with the Tinker bit. I think the most important thing we talked about that I really want people to, well, okay, kiting was the most important one for sure. And then
about a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. Well, the kiting one was super insightful. And I think another point, I really just love the example of attacking enemies to make other heroes show and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I think that is really just honestly a super simple concept. And I also think that's one of the least used concepts in the whole game by players.
Yeah.
Right? Because you say like, yo, we need to jump Shaker, and then like your team, like the enemy team presents themselves, or how often is there like a tough fight on high ground and your team just watches them take the whole base, and like you have to like start doing stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You need
It's
to use
also
your
good
cooldowns.
because I like what you said, where if the Shaker has half a brain, he's not going to show.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes he will show and he'll make it easy for you.
If I go jump Shaker, and then Shaker hits the enchant totem and fucking on my tower, it's like, okay, get that guy right there. Like, get his ass. But like,
yeah,
he's not gonna do that, man.
that was cool because we kind of stumbled on this concept like organically through our discussion.
Yeah.
It's such a good one.
It's such a good one, man.
So
I'm
good.
telling you, like the reason I wanted to emphasize it at the end of the game is because you cannot underestimate how insanely powerful this concept is. And dude, nobody does it. Nobody does it. If you communicate that in your game, like if you're like the carry and you say, I'm gonna hit this guy, look for this guy, then the fucking the Aegis of Champions gets lifted up and you win TI. Like, I'm not trolling.
What you can also do is kind of bait your team a little bit, because a lot of the time what will happen is your team will just jump the first enemy hero who shows, which is whatever.
Yes.
So you can just wait with your hero and then jump the right hero when they show.
Yeah,
That's
I learned that a
application
hero
of
that
it.
made me learn that. This is like basically it for me. But a hero that made me learn that a lot is Void Spirit, because if I go in on Void Spirit and the enemy Tiny's hitting my base and I hit him with the fucking step remnant full bombo, incredible. I took 1/100th of his HP, right? But a lot of the times, or a PA is a great example in the past where I had a little arc where I was playing some PA and I was like feeding the first couple games. And what I realized is like, just let my teammates hit the guy that's the animal. And then suddenly from the fog, you see 4 motherfuckers come forward to defend their Tiny. And now I can just like select my fight.
I
Or Magnus.
I really like the Void Spirit example because committing on him is very straightforward. When you use both your jumps, you are fully committed.
Yes, exactly.
Can't get out unless you have an item.
I have the actual most base example. Sorry, this one's too good to let the opportunity go to waste because this was you. Good job, you. I think we maybe discussed this.
Oh no, we didn't talk about this on the podcast.
Yes, it was. So he's Lifestealer. For context, we just lost a team
this
fight.
This play was insane, dude.
We're dire in front of our tier 2 mid. We all just died. I was really strong. I'm Ember Spirit, surprise. So I'm Ember. And my remnant's down. I'm dead. I'm looking to buy back. And he's Lifestealer. And the other guy who's alive on our team, we have 2 alive, is him and Magnus. And our Magnus was not a savant, no doubt, but he was right. But so you communicate and you basically said like, and this is great that you communicate, because if you didn't, I'm pretty sure we all like you die instantly and we lose the whole game if you didn't say this stuff. You said, I think we can fight. And then you say, play behind me with RP. And then what happens? Enemy team, brainless animals. They see Lifestealer walking into 5 heroes. Yo, Lifestealer, yo, get him,
It was literally into 5.
It was
we had just lost the team fight and it was 2v. Yeah, it was
1v5. And he just starts hitting this anti-mage. And like my Lifestealer's mana is just getting completely fucked. And it looks really bad. Like I was like kind of tweaking. I was like sitting there with my buyback, like, are we just losing? And then, yeah, so 5 heroes, they're like, Lifestealer, hit the first guy on my screen. 5 people stacked on Lifestealer. I buy back 5-man RP, and we just instantly wipe them in like half a millisecond.
Yeah.
It's like incredible.
That was close too. Low-key, if I didn't press rage at the right time, all my mana would have gotten burned, and I wouldn't have been able to like infest and kite, like survive. But yeah, we ended up wiping them. But I just love the nuance of that. The nuance of that is awesome. Like, that was one of the best plays we've had, I think. Like genuinely. Yeah. Go ahead. It came from me like limit testing. Like I didn't really know how that was gonna go, but I just wanted to see, because I like pattern recognized in my head, like, okay, my mag still has RP. I didn't actually know you had buyback, which obviously like helped a lot.
I didn't say shit, but
yeah, whoops. But even if you didn't buy back,
probably would have did it regardless.
Yeah, probably would have ended up well. But I just said like, fuck it, like let's just try.
Yeah, and I just love that. I mean, I think you did this subconsciously because you're a good player, but like it's just the second order thinking, right? Like where you just think one step ahead, where it's like, I'm gonna hit this guy 1v5. The second part is like, all of them are gonna attack me because they're stupid and they don't think ahead. And then I have a Magnus in the trees right there. Our Magnus also had, just to get the lessons over, but to get the humor out of the situation, I was tweaking as well because it was daytime, and this Lifestealer is fighting 1v5, and instead of hiding in the trees, our Magnus is just like standing right in front of the tier 2 tower, just like very clearly envisioned. As we're communicating this, like, we have mag behind. This guy just like he walks, he like fakes 5 shockwaves. I'm like, what is happening, bro? And then they just like stack 5 on our Lifestealer. This is an immortal game, guys. So like, I'm telling you,
I should make a video on that actually.
That was a great one. Yeah, you should.
If the replay is still available.
But yeah, so that's it.
But yeah, we're going to wrap up this episode, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We're back. We're going to have weekly episodes. We're going to be at Raleigh. You guys should come hang.
Yes. Comment
If we
you're
get
there,
more than
etc.
2 people say they're gonna be there in the comments, we'll do a
specify
Dota
a
Club
location and say hi.
Dota Club
record us.
podcast meetup karaoke bar.
Jesus, that's a fucking heat. That's actually heat.
Or something fun like that. But yeah, let us
We'll
know in
figure
the
something
comments
out.
what you think about this episode. Let us know if you have any questions. If you guys have good questions, we'll address them in the next episode.
Yeah, let's bring
But
back the
I
community.
remember
Yeah, we had so many
when
good
we tried to
questions
do
going
that before, we just had like 20 questions.
So many
they're
questions.
all like could be an hour
I don't
episodes,
think.
but still
I mean,
ask
I'm
them.
down to. Yeah, we're not gonna. I don't even think it's about like being selective about the questions because I think we'll still like address a lot of them. But like, I can't talk about some random ass hero for like 30 minutes if it doesn't relate to like general Dota concepts that I want to express.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be Dota related. Like, it can be like, I mean, obviously we relate a lot of things to Dota, but it doesn't have to be, the nature of it doesn't have to be Dota because we talk about a lot of non-Dota stuff and related to Dota.
Yeah.
So ask anything. Enjoy.
Yep. All right, guys. See ya.